While F. Scott Fitzgerald was waiting for The Great Gatsby to be published, he wrote a short story called The Rich Boy. And here's how that short story starts. Let me tell you about the very rich. They are different from you and me. It's reported that Ernest Hemingway teased Fitzgerald about it by writing, yes, they have more money.
Obviously.
Now, later Hemingway would write about Fitzgerald that he thought the rich were a special glamorous race, and when he found they weren't, it wrecked him as much as any other thing wrecked him. Now, both Fitzgerald and Hemingway had their strengths, had their weaknesses, they had their triumphs, their depressions, they were artists, they had their thing. They both had very different experiences in life too. They were born about 3 years apart. They wrote some of their famous, great works of literature in the 1920s. And I think what kind of shaped both of them more than many things was the great divide between the rich and the poor in the 1920s. And it really shaped what they wrote about, their literature, all those things, especially during that time frame, and especially for Fitzgerald. What we want to do today, looking at a time when there's also probably a great divide between the rich and the poor, maybe just as much, if not more, than there was in the 1920s here in the United States, is seek some clarity about what is different between the rich and the poor as we move from, not very rich to more rich. It's you, me, are we changing? What's happening? How do we get some clarity here? That's what we're going to be talking about in this episode.
Hey, and welcome to Wealth Wisdom Financial Podcast. We believe when conventional financial thinking doesn't get you where you need to go, you need wealth wisdom. So don't forget, hit that subscribe button, like, and write a comment. We'd love to hear from you, hear what you think of these episodes, and give us some feedback. We'd love to maybe do a video on whatever you write.
Now, if you're a first-time listener, or maybe you haven't caught every single episode, or maybe if you have, we'll refresh your memory. Brayden and I both grew up in not wealthy families. In fact, my family were on public assistance when I was born. My mom went back to college in her late 30s to get a degree so that she could get a good, stable job for us and provide for the family.
And I was raised by a single mom, and she had multiple jobs, of course, to maintain the stuff for us and for, just groceries and all that stuff. And so growing up in that background, we didn't have very much, right? I do remember, though, reading The Great Gatsby and saying, oh, though, I think I was like Hemingway saying those other people.
No, that's Fitzgerald. Yeah. He wrote The Great Gatsby. Yeah. And my dad was very much like, you never can trust a rich person. They must have gotten rich because they were greedy. We grew up in that. But of course, now, as bank and yourself revolutionaries and as financial professionals, our wealth is growing. And we're starting to wonder, are we changing? What do we want to change? How could we maybe stay frugal and get wealthier? Is that possible? Do we need to actually buy bigger houses and bigger cars? What is this and how does it work? Because it's something we're approaching and actively involved in. And we guess that probably people watching this YouTube channel are going through the same thing. If you're actively trying to grow your wealth, you're increasing your income, you're going to probably have more now than you did a year ago or 2 years ago. You might have more than your parents had. How do we live in that? How do we maintain our clarity about where we're going, who we are, what we do as we get more and more wealthy in all the ways, not just with money?
And being a parent, how do I help with the values and not have a entitlement or something like that within him?
Right. Yeah. Because we want this to be something that continues. And then, of course, for our clients, we never promise that we're going to help them get rich, right? That's not what we do this for. It's actually that experience of poverty that we don't want anyone to experience that ever again. And so as much as we can, we try to make sure that the people that work with us, even if they never get rich, they never have to worry about living under a bridge or having to file bankruptcy or different things, that they create a solid foundation that they don't have to, worry about those kind of things. And we think that's really important because with that solid foundation, not only do they end the possibility of poverty for themselves or maybe for the close people in their family, but from that foundation, they can go after their goals, hopes, and dreams. They can pursue the difference they want to make in the world. They can end poverty for other people as well by starting businesses or giving to charities or all kinds of things. This is what really drives us. And we don't want to lose that because we get rich or whatever too, right?
Yeah. I think the crux of it is a lot of times in our title, it's having clarity as you grow, maintaining clarity as you grow your wealth. Is a lot of times as people are reaching out to us, they want to build a foundation, or have goals or something like that. But oftentimes they don't know what their goals are. They have no idea. They're like, oh, that's a great question. And I'm asking, where do you want to be in 5 years? You know, those kind of things. And again, oftentimes people haven't asked that of themselves. They don't have that clarity within to be able to know what is going to be in 5 years. And then they just try and keep up again with the Joneses.
Well, you're getting ahead of us a little bit. We're going to come back to this. But first, I went on an expedition. I went to the good old google.com and I typed in.
Not ChatGPT like we did before.
No, I just did Google this time. And I typed in frugal famous people. I wanted to see, are there any famous wealthy people that maintain frugality? They kept their grounding. They tried to save money. And gosh, I got a ton of results. Funny enough, as I was looking through the results, I realized a lot of them were self-made. They grew up kind of like I grew up with experiences of poverty. And now they maintain some of that even into their famous, wealthy lives. Probably the most talked about was Warren Buffett. Probably most people know he lives in the same house he purchased 60, 80, 120 years ago, whatever it was. He drives a reliable car, but nothing fancy. He still eats McDonald's, you know, all those things. But I found 3 that I didn't know about. The first 2 are inspiring, but the third one is my favorite. So here we go. The first one, I'll share 3. So 3 of my favorites. Danica Patrick. Race car driver, Indy 500, NASCAR, all that thing.
Oh yeah, I see her all the time.
He's joking. Dad jokes. Okay, here's what she says, quote, I love to cook. While it can sometimes be hard to have all the right ingredients when I'm on the road, I love stopping by local farmers markets and cooking as often as I can. The food I make is much healthier than always eating out at restaurants. Plus, it's a great way to save money. So as a lady, with her job, she has to travel a lot, and yet she still tries to cook, and she gets local fresh ingredients, which actually probably cost less than eating at a restaurant. And it saves her money doing what she loves and contributing to her physical health too. Yep. Pretty cool.
Yep.
Okay. Next one, Bethany Frankel. She was the creator of the Skinny Girl cocktail brand. I bet you drink those all the time too.
Oh, I thought that was a dress thing.
No, it's a cocktail.
Okay.
Yeah. With low calorie cocktail.
Okay. Yeah, I drink them all the time.
So she loves.
You can't tell, obviously.
She loves fashion. And according to her report, she never buys an article of clothing unless it's on sale. Loves fashion. So one of the best dressed celebrities probably. And yet she never buys anything unless it's on sale. And she also tends to buy from eBay or other online stores where she's less likely to make an impulse purchase. Kind of fun. You're not a big fan of fashion. You're wearing our company polo
logo shirt.
Not as relatable to you, but I know for some of them out there, super relatable.
As you can tell, I am huge into fashion. If you watch some of our previous videos, definitely I'm a fashion expert.
Okay, now number 3, my favorite. This is John Urschel. He was in the NFL, retired at 26. And while he was in the NFL, he made $1.8 million. In 1 year, he made $600,000. But he decided that he was going to live on $25,000 a year. He drove a Nissan Versa. I saw this one when they asked him why he drove that. He's like, because it gets me where I want to go and it's paid off. Yeah. It was like, no big deal. There's actually an Instagram of him parked in the parking lot between these like huge other NFL trucks and his little Nissan Versa. Anyway, but he also said this. He didn't drive it or live on such a low income because he's frugal or trying to save for some big purchase. Here's what he says. It's because the things I love the most in the world, reading, math, doing research, playing chess, are very, very inexpensive. Just like the other 2, he knows what he loves, and it just happens to be less costly. Playing chess, you need one chess set and hours of learning and growing and having fun.
And
maybe a book too, but
and I do think, like, when we think about rich celebrities or sports people who have gone bankrupt, we're like, how in the world did that happen? Well, probably because they bought all these SUVs, multiple ones, $1 billion houses, and they thought it was going to keep coming in. That money was going to keep coming in, and maybe it didn't. Maybe it did. Maybe they made bad decisions. But a part of it was they were just doing the stuff. They were just becoming consumers like everyone else.
Yeah.
It's bigger things.
So we're talking about clarity. How do you maintain clarity as you're building wealth? And we're talking about clarity in our online community all this month. One of the things that I see in these three people, that I see with lots of people that I talk to, is that if they know themselves, that gives them a big leg up on whatever financial goals they're going after. And actually, self-knowledge is one of the best pieces of wisdom you can have. If you want any kind of wisdom, wealth wisdom, knowing yourself is like key. And that requires, some thinking. It requires some self-awareness, some time to reflect, right? I'm sure Danica had to figure out she loves food and loves cooking, and Bethany had to figure out she loves fashion, and John had to figure out that he loves chess and math and research. I love books, but I love, reading all the time, but I've found a lot more joy and access to books by going to the library than trying to always buy them and keep them on bookshelves.
They take up space too. So
they do. And it's super annoying to have to like move them around all the time.
And I like going to the gym. Maybe it doesn't show as much, but I do go there regularly. And why I like that is because, it is a habit. I can just show up there and do my thing. Now, here's the thing. It is just after New Year. Probably everybody is saying, oh, resolution, I'm going to lose this weight or that or whatever. Now, what I like about this is I do pay for a gym. And for me, I make sure I show up 3 to 4 times a week minimum because I paid for the gym. It is a more expensive gym. And for me, I'm like, well, if I'm going to buy it but never use it, that is like wasteful. So let's use it and do those things that bring me joy.
So all of you just joined a gym, or you're frustrated by all the people that just joined your gym and they're getting in your way, Brandon feels you.
Yeah, for sure.
So now, this doesn't mean that every famous person is frugal. It also doesn't mean you have to be frugal in order to build monetary wealth. It also doesn't mean just because you're frugal, you're going to build monetary wealth. Cutting expenses only goes so far. Well, that's not what we want you to take from this episode, okay? What we want you to take from this is having clarity on what's going to bring you true joy. Things like cooking, fashion, math, and chess, of all things, reading books, going and working out, whatever it might be for you, knowing what that is and making sure that you carve the time and the money for that, and you let everything else fall by the wayside. We live in a pretty small house. We drive a car that gets us from point A to point B reliably, and we actually bought based on resale value more than anything. Yep. That's like, yours could be a nice house, yours could be a nice car, but it can't be everything. Well, you have to have, like, that's kind of the thing. You're passionate about something. It's 1 or 2 things. It's not you're passionate about everything. Yeah. I mean, I love lots of things. I went to a liberal arts school. I love learning about all kinds of things, but I can only really cultivate passions on a few things. And I want to cultivate passions on things that are below my means as well. Yeah. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Well, I have 2 things that I'm thinking about. Is there's a book, it's called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. And what he says is a lot of thinking time. So we need to have thinking time to be able to figure out what we want and thinking about our business and doing all that stuff. And the reality is, I think that our world is not set for thinking. We are set to consume. We're set to turn on the TV and get an ad about a big car that we should be buying. And otherwise, we're not happy if we don't have that.
Right. That's pure advertising.
Yeah.
Is they're going to make you feel less happy unless you buy the thing. Yeah. Keep going. Sorry.
So by having that thinking time, you then can, before you come to people like us or somebody's like, what's your goals? What do you want to accomplish in life? You have those in place, right? And then also, I'm not saying don't just not spend money. It's to be wealthy, right? And or to feel it. So I did invest in a mastermind, and it was because this year I wanted a wealth of relationship, deeper relationships with business owners and people who are doing big things
like you,
like me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be around those people. So I joined, it was called Gathering the Kings Mastermind. And so I joined that, spent the money, which seems like a lot, but in retrospect, is it? I don't know.
Well, and you were able to do that because we run a really lean business and we keep our expenses really low because we know we're not going to spend money on things that aren't going to actually drive our happiness and our top line revenue and, those kind of things. That kind of clarity actually helps in so many different ways, including being able to invest in the things that are actually going to bring you joy. Now, the other thing we wanted to make sure to say is when people come to us, they normally they think self-knowing is knowing what net worth they want to get to or what amount of passive income per month equals financial freedom to them. And what we love to really go deeper into in our conversations is, well, what does that allow you to do?
Yeah.
Let's say you reach that number. What does that allow? How are you going to spend your time? What is you going to do? We find a lot of people mention travel, family, things like that are super important to them. And it's great to hear those things. And maintaining a focus and a clarity around what the money allows you to do, I think is a great way to maintain clarity as we're building wealth, that it doesn't become about the money. It becomes about what the money allows us to do. Spend more time with family, live those experiences, have that personal development, whatever it might be. And so as you're building wealth, we kind of invite you, continue to get to know yourself, what really drives your passion, cultivate those passions and keep them below your means. And then also keep the things that you're really going after center rather than the money itself. And if you're setting goals this year around money, X number of rental units or X number of investments made or whatever it might be, think about what are you ultimately driving toward?
Yeah. I think that leads into it's a game and it is a growing experience for each one of us. We never have arrived, if you will. We are continuing on this journey to build that. And at the same time, doing it in a group. That's why I joined this community for me, was because it's doing it with other people is really, really helpful to be able to journey on that. And maybe you find out, hey, there's something I'm missing, and they have a knowledge about it.
Yeah. So are you ready to have clarity on where you're going so you don't get distracted by the Joneses or the advertisements, the things that would distract you? You're able to focus where you're going, and you're not changing that focus, that clarity every 3 seconds.
5 minutes.
Yeah. You're pretty solid on it. You've invested that time to make sure you know what it is and you're clear about it. If that's you, I've got 3 more questions for you. You ready for this? I wrote these down. Do you want to make sure that you get happy whether or not you get rich?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Would you like to get to know yourself better so that you can align your money with those values and really get to the place that's going to bring you true fulfillment? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you catching this episode prior to January 22nd, 2024? I hope so.
And if not, there's still going to be ways to connect.
Well, but if you answered yes to that last question and yes to either of the first 2 questions or any of the questions we've been asking, we want to invite you to Wealth Wisdom Week. Now, let me tell you about Wealth Wisdom Week. It is 5 days. We're going to be live on Zoom helping people in real time get clearer on where they want to go, what they want their money to be doing for them, and including ourselves. We're going to be doing this alongside everybody that shows up. Now, space is limited. Only so many people can join live. We are going to send out recordings to people that miss a day here or a day there or whatnot. So if you're catching this and you're piqued, your interest is piqued, you want to get to know yourself better, you want to move your money more aligned with who you really are, the link is in the description of this video. If you're catching on the podcast, it's in the podcast description. Go sign up right now. We look forward to seeing you there. It's going to be the best week of the year. At least we want it to be, and we want it to be for you. The more of us that are there, the more of us that participate, the better it's going to be for all of us. We all do better when we all do better.
Yep. You can also go to wealthwisdomfp.com, and there should be a button there or a way to connect to it. So go to wealthwisdomfp.com, and there's probably a carousel with that Wealth Wisdom Week. So join there. If you're at the gym right now and you can't look at what's below, then or wealthwisdomfp.com.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you live long and profit. We totally set up this episode for an amazing episode next time. It's an episode we wanted to do back in December, but we couldn't. The next episode is the one not to miss. Hopefully, knock on wood, we're able to do it. Putting it out there, it's happening. So hit subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. You're not going to want to miss it. The topics presented in this podcast are for general information only and not for the purposes of providing legal, accounting, or investment advice. On such matters, please consult a professional who knows your specific situation. And before you go talk to that professional, spend some time getting to know yourself and increasing your self-knowledge so you can come into that conversation with wisdom.
Yeah. Be less stupid. Is that what it is? We're less stupid?
Sure.
Yeah.